Thank you so much for joining us. This is Success Mentorship Class number 155. And of course, our topic for today is a lot based on our book, The 12 Universal Laws of Success, but it's also based on this particular season. You know, this is the Easter season, the season of the resurrection. And so today I wanted to pick a topic that really, I think, resonated with the season. And I'd love to open with a quote. It says, "The resurrection gives my life meaning, direction, and the opportunity to start over, no matter what my circumstances." I'm going to read that again. The resurrection gives my life meaning, direction, and opportunity to start over, no matter what my circumstances. And that's a powerful thought, because when we gave this title, Personal Resurrection, it was really applying the resurrection principle to ourselves. So as usual on our Saturday mornings, let us get ourselves centered so that we can be ready to open and receptive to receive the message today. So sit straight up in your seats, close your outer eyes, take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it, let it out slowly. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Let it out slowly. And in this relaxed state, we are open, receptive, and ready to learn. Just let that feeling sink in. I am open, receptive, and ready to learn. Let us say that together. I am open, receptive, and ready to learn. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. All right. This Easter season really is a profound time in the world. And I want to give a very simplistic overview of the events that are related in the Easter season, the Easter story. And basically the master teacher, Jesus, comes into the city of Jerusalem. And in Hebrew, Jerusalem means Jerusalem, is city of peace. And as the allegory goes on Palm Sunday, and he's hailed as the great one, the teacher, the master, a representation of the God-man. By Friday, he's been tried, convicted, and is crucified on the cross. And then the following Sunday is the resurrection. And so that's the allegory, but the meaning behind the allegory, the esoteric meaning behind the allegory. Number one, the cross is a symbol of manifestation. It's really when reality and thought meet. Sometimes the cross is looked at as, in a sense, of Judgment Day, the time when our deeds and our words and our actions manifest. It's like our present reality. So we are always living our Judgment Day. The things that we are experiencing right now in our lives are the things that we created in the moments before this very moment, the things that we created yesterday, the things that we created last year. So all of the seeds that we've sown in the past always manifest in the present. So the thought of a personal resurrection is that no matter how successful you may be, no matter how high you may rise, that circumstances and conditions can bring you down to a whole nother level. But the good news about the resurrection concept is that in a personal level, that no matter what happens to you in your life and affairs, you have the capacity to be reborn. You have the capacity to create a new you, a new person. So let's delve into this a little more. Some of the principles. When we look at our lives are a lot like a stair step. And each step on that great stair step to the promised land, each step represents our present condition at that particular time. So whatever we may be doing, we may get into a situation at a particular time where we're happy. Things seem to be going okay. It's like that Palm Sunday experience. And then things happen in that situation where we become unhappy. We want to change. We want to do something better. We want to move up. That tension then causes us to do something. And if we act on it appropriately, we move on up to the next step. So one of the lessons the overall arching lessons of everything we do is that everything has a season. Many of the things that happen to us in our lives, really, it's because of the season that we're living in. Right now, we're just coming through the pandemic season. And it gave many of us an incredible opportunity to meet ourselves again. Life has a way of being so exciting. Has so much stuff can be going on in our world that we don't take time to meet ourselves, to walk into your bathroom and look in the mirror and look at yourself and say, this is me. How are you? How am I doing today? What's my life like today? And so even though the season of pandemic had some very negative consequences, there's always a positive side. The universe is created in a yin-yang fashion. Wherever there's darkness, there's light. Wherever there's good, there's bad. And so even though the pandemic was a negative experience, it gave us an opportunity to meet ourselves again, because it is within ourselves that our salvation lies. It is within ourselves that our resurrection lies. And by that, I mean that each stage in our lives is impacted by four things: our thoughts, our emotions, our habits, and our associations. And so when we look at where we are at any particular time, it is the result, it is the manifestation, it is the judgment day of our thoughts, our emotions, our habits, and our associations. So let's look at our thoughts for a moment. That when we go through an experience in life where we need a change, we look first at our thoughts. Earl Nightingale said, we become what we think about most of the time. The first law of success is that a mind, a man, it says, but I say a mind, male, female, a mind shall have whatsoever it feels in its heart. So these first two principles, the idea of thought and emotion, go together, because we really live the life of emotionalized thought. And so we may have a thought of, for example, we'll often have a contradiction of thought and emotion. Kenya, welcome. Stuart, welcome. Captain, welcome. Angel, welcome. Thank you. So many of us have joined us today on Instagram. We may have that idea of manifested thought where there's a contradiction. So we call it talking in the path and walking in the grass. We may be saying how much we really want to be successful, but inside we can be feeling that we're unworthy of success. That whatever happened in our early lives, many times as children, those early years can be really problematic because our upbringing, our emotions, our thoughts, our instincts developed by other people. So if we were raised in a great family of love and upliftment, that can be a good positive. If we were raised in another type of family of criticism, of negativity, of pain, of suffering, of hunger, that's another perspective. And so this duality of thought and emotion is critical. When we look at our thoughts and we look at our emotions, we must make them congruent. So if we say we want success, we want joy, we must feel success. We must feel joy. That's what confidence is all about. The third aspect is our habits. Our habits are not the big things. Our habits are the little things. We often say, how do you eat an elephant? Bite by bite. How do you build a dream? Day by day. All right. Welcome, Mary. Thank you for joining us. And so this idea of our habits are so critical because these are the little things we do each day. We can be talking in the path, okay, in our thoughts. We can be walking in the path in our emotions, but our habits can be counterproductive. We may have a habit of disorganization, a habit of tardiness, and these habits will undermine us. The fourth aspect is the aspect of relationships. They're great powers. They're great things that we can do to move our lives along our growth pattern. But there's a certain vibration that is necessary that you can't access by yourself. The principle says, when two or more are gathered on one accord, I am among them. I am is the making power. It's a vibration inside you that is enhanced by other people. And so when you and another person are operating in a harmonic relationship, 1 + 1 is more than 2. 2 + 2 is more than 4. And so these 4 things, your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, and your relationships, represent where you are at each point in time and space. So when we think about this idea of personal resurrection, it's understanding first that everything has a season, but it's also understanding that life works in cycles. So once we tune into the cycles that we're operating in, then we can literally create the vibration within us by our thoughts, our emotions, our habits, and our relationships that attract all the things that we need into our life. Let's look at this from a practical point of view. We can be in a situation, for example, in a job. And the thoughts in that job are such that we are not happy. We're thinking of all the things the job cannot do for us. It doesn't pay us enough money. The emotions in the job is that I'm just going to do just enough to keep from being fired. The habits in the job are I show up at 9 o'clock, I leave at 5 o'clock, and I don't give a minute more. The relationships on that job may be everybody standing around the water fountain talking about how bad it is, how the boss doesn't care. And so this can be your crucifixion. If you stay in that position, you literally create a crucifixion for yourself. In order to move to the next level, you have to let that old you, the person who's doing all those things, let them pass away and create a new you. This is that personal resurrection. And so that personal resurrection here may be, let's look at the thoughts. Instead of thinking about how bad this is, let me look at this job from a new perspective of, hey, I'm making some great relationships. I'm getting some incredible experience. So I'm preparing myself for the new me, for the resurrected me. You may look at this job from the emotional point of view. Instead of saying, I'm unhappy and miserable, the emotion may be, hey, I'm anticipating, I'm hopeful. Okay? I can feel my next position. I can feel the resurrected me. I know that when I get past this job and build on these relationships that I've gotten here and build on this experience that I've gotten here, I can feel how good my life is going to be. The resurrected you may change now your habits and say, now, let me do this. One thing I know about a job is whoever's paying me will greatly appreciate it if they feel that I really care about this job. So instead of my getting here at 9 o'clock on the button, so I'm not a second late, let me get here at 8:45. Let me find out what time my boss comes in. So when he comes in or she comes in, I'm already there. That creates a whole different vibration. So you change your habits on that job so that it sets yourself up now for the resurrected you. The relationships now on that job, you start thinking about now, let me stay away from the people who are the complainers. And then let me look at the people who are the gainers. Let me look at the people who are trying to move up in this position. And so you literally, through your thoughts, through your emotions, through your habits, and through your relationships, you literally create the resurrected you. Does that make sense? This idea of personal resurrection, it really is something that happens over and over and over. In other words, this is a process that each time you reach a plateau in your life, you duplicate it, but you duplicate it now with a greater understanding. Each step, it's like going up the mountain. Each step you go further up that mountain, you learn more, but you can also see more. Let's look at relationships. Maybe you need a resurrection in your relationships. People get into a relationship where the thought is one of the clock is running. Sometimes people get in this relationship. I need to find somebody who loves me right away. My age. I'm heading for 40, and I'm not in a meaningful relationship. So that's a thought that's in your mind. The clock is running. Creates a sense of desperation. You may have a feeling that, man, if I'm by myself now, it's because nobody really likes me. I'm not likable. Negative emotions. You may create the habit of going for, as one of my sons used to say, going for the okie doke. To anybody who pays you some attention, you lock onto them. You may have relationships of people who use you, who abuse you, who you permit to be in your life just because you're lonely. So this idea of a personal resurrection in a relationship format, a relationship perspective says, listen, let's think a new thought. Let's think a resurrected thought. Let's create a thought of our promised land. How do I want my life to be? So the thought may be, someone really great is out there to meet me. The thought may be, a good life is coming to me. I can see it. I see that person coming down the road. Reverend Ike used to say, you know, one of the things you can do, he was telling a lady, Sister Mary, he said, well, Sister Mary, if you want to attract that person into your life, into your home, he said, why don't you go to your closet and take out half the clothes so that one side of that closet is empty now, so that you can begin to see that person's clothing in your closet. That you may redecorate your house and move the chairs around to accommodate another person. It's a simplistic approach, but what it's saying is that your thoughts are the blueprint for your reality. So see the relationship that you would like to have. It may not be around you, but that's the idea of the resurrection, that whatever the circumstances around you, all the bad people you've met in the past, they don't have to be in your future. Begin to feel that new relationship. Man, how does it feel to be in a relationship where I am honored, where somebody loves me, where somebody really cares about me? A friend of mine, I called, they were getting the COVID shot, and I called them and I said, how's everything? Because she was really having some serious reservations about it, all of the negativity in the news and stuff, and she was really upset about it. And so when I called, I said, well, how you doing? Everything all right? She was just, she said, oh my God, Dr. Harris. She said, my boss didn't even call me. She said, I thank you so much for calling me. So sometimes see that emotion, that relation, that feel how it would be if somebody really cared about you. See how your life would be if somebody really cared about you and loved you and uplifted you and wanted to hear what you had to say and cared about what you say. Begin to see those relationships. See people who compliment who you are. See people who compliment what you're about. And so as you now interact with other people, you don't interact from a position of hunger, a thought that your clock is running. You interact from a position of, I bring great value to any relationship. I radiate confidence. I radiate this loving person that I am. You see, love is like a seed that you have to plant and water it. So this idea of personal resurrection is really a concept that we can use no matter what is going on in our lives. That when we look at our present condition, no matter what it is, to transform it, to create the new you, we modify and operate on these 4 principles. We think a thought that is consistent with the thought that we would like to become. That thought being the vision of the person we'd like to be, doing the things we'd like to do, having the things we'd like to have. We create the feelings. And this is very critical because feeling gets the blessing. Of all of the 4 principles, feeling is most powerful because feeling is vibration. And vibration is the way that the universe operates. We live in a vibrational universe. And so your feelings are so powerful that when your feelings and your thoughts are congruent, you literally create a magnetic field that begins to attract into your life all that you desire. So in your personal resurrection, you create the thoughts and feeling of the person you would like to be. And the beauty of this pandemic now is you had a chance to sit with you. This is not something you ask somebody else about. What do you think my life should be? It's not something you can read about it just to give you a greater perspective and help you see more and be more. You may inquire about somebody from someone who's been there, someone who seems to have their life together, seems to be happy. But you create that emotion inside of actually how you would feel if your dream was realized, how you would feel if the new you manifested in your life right now. And these habits, you see, the habits are a lot like the day. The sun comes up each day. It's a daily occurrence. That's a symbolic meaning for you, for us. That whatever we do, we must approach it on a daily basis. The law of habit says, whatever you do on a daily basis becomes automatic to you. You see, when you create positive habits, you don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to lay in the bed and wonder, say, I don't feel good and I don't feel like getting up today. When your positive habit is to arise at 6 o'clock in the morning, you've eliminated even thinking about it. The habit takes over. It saves your mental and psychic power to do other things. And then the relationships. You know, Les Brown was sharing with me one day, and we were talking about how he went from being a good speaker to being a great speaker. And he said the thing that made the difference was somebody, that somebody mentored him, that somebody talked to him and told him, this is what you have to do. If you want to get to this point in your life, this is what you have to do. And he said, once he came together with that person and started working with him, his career took off. And so as you create the resurrected you, who can help you become the person you want to be? You have to know who you want to be first. You have to have your own vision first. You have to have your own desires and goals first. But now who can help you manifest them? So in conclusion, the idea of personal resurrection is that Number one, life takes place in cycles. That there's a time, as it said, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I acted as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. To look at your life, there are certain things you may be doing that are childish things, that are counterproductive things. To look at those cycles and say, what things am I doing that are hindering me from going and being the person I want to be? Look at the fact that it's all about a total vibration, that whatever vibrations you have in your life, that combination between your thoughts and your feelings really determines the vibrations you send out. So let me align my thoughts with my feelings. Whatever baggage you have, get rid of it. Whatever negativity you have, get rid of it. Let me align my thoughts and my feelings so that I can now create the life of my dreams, the resurrected life. And let us work on our habits. Let us look at each day as an opportunity for great growth. You see, time is the great equalizer. The Creator has given everybody the same number of hours in the day, the same number of seconds in an hour. It's what you do with those hours, with those seconds. And so to live your life in a discriminating manner where you ask yourself the time question, where you value. You see, the time that we've been given by the Creator is what is really the most valuable gift we have, along with breath and consciousness. And so we ask ourselves, what is the best use of my time right now? When I consider my goals, my vision, and my purpose, and then be committed to act accordingly. And then finally, as we create this new person, this resurrected person, to surround yourself with your disciples, surround yourself with the people who can help you and uplift you and who honor you. Also know that people are people, that even the master teacher didn't get them all. That there will be people in your life who will be counterproductive, who will smile and stab you in the back at the same time. Recognize that. That's one of those, that's like a weed concept. You don't have to plant weeds, but if you're doing good, the weeds are going to grow. If you're planting flowers, weeds will come. Once you recognize that, then you understand how to protect yourself better, how to create that power circle around you that only good can come into your life. So I say to you, Happy New You, the resurrected you, the you that you create on a daily basis can be exactly the way you want it to be. You can be what you want to be. You can do what you want to do. You can have whatever you want to have, wherever you want to have it. Always knowing that the best is yet to come. And so it is. Whew, just take a deep breath. Thank you so much for joining us on Facebook, on Instagram. Those of you who are members of the Success Mentorship Network are on our Zoom right now. Those who would like to become a part of the Success Mentorship Network and participate in the discussions and dialogue we have after our trainings, after our classes, be sure to go to our Patreon website, www.patreon.com/Success Mentorship Network. Until next week, be blessed, be great, and most of all, be you. And so it is. All right. Let me open the lines. Let's see. As a matter of fact, you can unmute your line now. Okay. All right. You can unmute your line by pressing *6. Let's see. Tyrone, you've unmuted your line. Some comments or thoughts?
Yes. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your, like Brother Dr. Herbert Harris. There's a scripture that goes, I believe in the Bible that says, put on the new man. Or you can't put old you can't put new wine into an old wine skin. And that's right along the lines of what you were saying today. As we reinvent ourselves, we can actually reinvent ourselves each day.
Yes.
You know, and we always want to, like I read in one of your chapters of your book, that always have an imagination and keep that creativity alive, and that will keep us tied to our youth and vigor.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Every day you create a new you. Thank you so much, Mr. Tyrell. Let's see. Mary, I saw you open your mic.
Good morning, Dr. Harris. I heard part of this on Facebook and it came on to the site for our group. It was interesting because I've not ever thought of it through the resurrection process before and comparing what we're doing in life to that. So that was an interesting concept to be able to see that and to understand that. That was very enlightening. So thank you.
You are
One of the questions I had was, how do you decide to do that thought process and that thought change? Because sometimes we change our thoughts and try to get that aligned with our feelings, but something happens and we go back again to the old thoughts. Yourself aligned.
Yes. Well, you know, Mary, I think the key of it all is faith. You know, the faith of the farmer is to plant the seed. So whenever we have a thought, it's like a seed. And the feeling we have around that thought is like the ground in which that seed is planted. And if we're not getting, if the product of the ground and the seed is not pleasing to us, then we must understand that's the essence of faith. The faith says the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And so we have to just keep doing. You have to keep sowing. You have to keep, thought is the key. You might say thought is like the vase, and feeling is that what you pour into that vase. So if things are not manifesting, sometimes we have to go back. You know, when we regress, our feelings have developed over the years. You know, our thoughts are much more easier to evolve because based so much on observation and experience. But our feelings are deep in our inner core. Like, you know, when people have serious trauma in their lives at an early stage, that trauma, if it's not dealt with, can be a cage, can be a prison for the rest of their lives. And so when we continue to get those undesired results, it's a good sign to get help. You know, Einstein said you can't solve the situation at the same level that created it. And so that's a good sign to get help. And our ego works against getting help. I know myself as a teacher, when I look at those times in my life where I was like just flat out of answers and just about out of questions, you know. And when I had to get help, I went to my mother, you know, a couple of times. I went to one of my coaches and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What is up? And so that may be a sign to do that. But the key is to have the faith that it's there for you, but for whatever it is that you need to deal with. I know that the promised land is there. I need to get there through my thoughts. I need to get there through my emotions, and whatever help I need to get me there, let me go get it. I hope that was helpful, Mary.
Yes, it was. It was like a reminder that you should always keep your goal in front of you and reviewing that goal and never lose that goal no matter what else is going on.
Thank you. Yes, yes. Thank you, Mary. See, Jimmy, you had your hand up.
I did actually. First off, thank you, Dr. Harris. And I'm going to actually parrot something that Tyrone said, as well as Mary. And the thing that really struck me in your teaching this morning was that, one, I never really thought about personal resurrection the way you presented it. But then again, as you were explaining it, I also had the thought that, wow, this happens every day. And it really does happen every day. And I think specifically about a business that I decided to focus on. And it's interesting because from 3-4 months ago when we got going to now, we've made a lot of progress. However, the one thing that I just really accepted minutes ago was that, that the thing that seems to be holding us up is not really the business and my team, it seems to be me. And the reason it's holding me up is because I realized that I'm still holding on to some things that I really should have let go probably years ago that I'm still grappling with. And inadvertently, it appears that I'm certain that I'm not congruent. I know I'm not. I recognize it now. And I never thought about it in this manner before. You know, that was very interesting to me. Like you made the mention of when you're in a relationship, and or if somebody wants to be in a relationship and they had that idea of like running out of time because they're getting older and blah blah blah. Well, you know, I've had that same thing, not in a relationship, but in relationship to my finances and the things that I want to create for my family, because I've wanted to create these things for a while. And of course, every day that I'm older, every day that I live, I get older, right? As do everyone else around me. So in my head, I have this thing going on. Okay, Jimmy, come on, we got to get this thing yesterday because, you know, we got to get it going.
Yes.
And it finally hit me. I was like, dang, I seem to be doing that.
Wow.
Huh.
That's powerful, Jimmy. That's powerful. Yeah. And, you know, as a fellow entrepreneur, I feel that same thing at times. You know, like I say, it never grows big as you want it. It never grows fast as you want it. Yeah. Thank you. Wow. I feel you. Hey, Miss Sandra, how are you today?
Good morning.
Yeah. Any thoughts today, Miss Sandra?
I was just thinking about Jimmy as he was talking about grappling with issues. That's a subject that many people do not want to accept, is how do I grab this issue, bring resolution to it, and solve it? And you mentioned trauma in a person's life, whether regardless as to what the trauma might be. So many times we need to seek professional help, and we don't want to seek that help. Therefore, we go through life forever with this trauma, which is affecting you or us personally, and never get rid of it. So quite often, friendship will dissolve, or people will not want to speak with you or talk with you because you always have the subject of the trauma that has affected you for 30 years, and you might be 40 years of age, but you've never gotten rid of the trauma. So many times people live their entire life with trauma that they never solve. And so many times people will say, well, I don't know what to do. And sometimes it's best just to keep quiet and not talk about the trauma if you don't want to seek professional help. And so many times people think that, you know, it's bad because I need professional help. And even after this trauma of the COVID, many people are going to need professional help because some people can't deal with it. And they just sit there on the sofa all day long. And what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do next year, instead of making goals for next year and sitting in the trauma of this year of existence that we've had already?
Wow. Thank you, Miss Sandra. That's a profound statement there. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. This has been an interesting day. And, you know, the analogy with the crucifixion, when I was in Israel, and I actually got a chance to walk the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea and Capernaum. And I spent, I guess, over a period of time, about 3 months, because I wanted to go to all those places mentioned in the Bible, because it really gave a different understanding of the Bible. You know, they're like, man, these places really exist. And when I get in some of the places, for example, I was in the Garden of Gethsemane, and I was trying to visualize, there's when you can see the city of Jerusalem from the Garden of Gethsemane, how the world mind has done things. The beautiful gate is the gate symbolic that Christ came through on Palm Sunday when he was hailed as a hero. And the interesting thing about it, outside the beautiful gate, they of course closed it and they built a cemetery outside. And one of the spiritual principles in that vein there is that a holy man never travels among the dead. And so I guess maybe you want to say, well, are they saying symbolically they don't want a great teacher to come through there again? It was an interesting thought. But to really personalize it and look at the Bible as a personal success book, and that each one of the stories, each one of the allegories, each one of the principles is really for personal interpretation, was a breakthrough for me. It really changed my attitude toward the Bible when I was studying it. I had decided that it was 90 days and I had to read 13 pages a day. And all I had to do was to have the discipline to sit down and do it. And man, that was hard. You start out and excited and everything, it's like a new business. You start out, man, I'm gonna call everybody, I'm gonna touch everybody. And after a week or so, your schedule falls out. Instead of calling 5 people a day, you call 1 every other day. And it's those type of discipline things that really help you get where you need to go. And just doing that, though, by the time I got to the end of the Bible, I had a whole different perspective. At some point reading it through, it stopped being something foreign and started being something personal. It's almost like I started, when I was reading The Prodigal Son, I became the prodigal son. I'm in the far country. And it really was a transformational experience for me. Any other thoughts or questions or comments? Yes, Jimmy, go ahead.
You never get to the clicker fast enough, right? Just a quick question, just a reiteration. You mentioned that earlier about the cross being the representation of what I wrote down in my notes is a representation of the judgment day, meaning today. Yes. But before you said that, or something very similar to that, you gave a representation of what the two, what were those again?
It was like the cross can be an intersection of action and emotion. Okay. And that brings about manifestation. And it's a judgment day concept because the judgment day is the day that is always the manifestation of your thoughts and your emotions together. And we put ourselves, when we were speaking, Jimmy, about the contradiction between your thoughts and your feelings, we almost put ourselves on the cross when we have that incongruence. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a personal work job, but the beauty of it, once you know it, then you can work on handling it and growing through it. Thank you.
Dr. Harris?
Yes, sir.
Really appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend. Any other thoughts or questions before we wrap up?
Yes, sir. Along the same line as you just mentioned about the symbolism of the crucifixion and the cross, I've also been taught that spiritually, it represents, the horizontal represents the animalistic side of the human being, and the vertical represents the ascension to God. And this is something that spiritually we have to master and deal with every day in our own souls and spirit is, are we ascending to God, or are we going to be like an animal? So that is on the spiritual tip.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And that's brother Tyrone, that's a good a good thought, because that mastery of the animal nature
Right.
is like the spiritual goal. That's
Right.
a part of us, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but it's like that daily activity. We
Yeah.
master it through that daily approach
Yeah.
to.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You know, so many times, we talk about the stages of life, and
Mm.
the first stage of life is that stage of education,
Yes.
where you really learn the principles and what's right and wrong, how to think. And the challenge for that life is that stage is your education is given to you by other people. And so
Mm.
if the other people are flawed, they can only show what they know.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so if they are mean or unloving or critical, that it becomes a part of our first stage foundation.
Yes, sir.
And then
Yes,
that
sir.
second stage of life is the stage of sensation,
Mm.
feeling. And
Mm.
that's where that animal nature, it's like
Mhm.
when a
Mhm.
person reaches puberty, there's a physical change that takes place in the body, and
Mhm.
that animal nature comes out, and man, either we rule it or it will rule us.
Right. 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 Nature. The
Yes,
nature.
yes.
That's right, brother.
And it
Right.
manifests in so many different ways,
Mhm.
manifests in the animal nature, the pursuit for the feeling, the
Mhm.
drugs, the sex. It manifests
Mhm.
in competition. It's interesting, different people. There's some people who, whatever that feeling, competition is so critical to them. They got to win. They got to
Mm-hmm. Ooh,
Mm.
yes.
everything they can.
Right.
Sometimes in business, you'll see they call them hard driving.
Mm.
you know, Meaning they keep whacking and whacking and whacking and whacking, and really, it's another manifestation of an animal nature just interpreted through business.
Yes. Yes. The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And I mean, capitalism. If you
Mhm.
look at capitalism, has really put our country in a spiritual dilemma.
Yes. Yes.
When
Yes.
we even look at healthcare,
Mhm.
in other countries, for example, healthcare is a constitutional right.
Mhm.
Why should you have to go shopping for prices
Come on.
to take care of your health?
Come on. Come on. Come on. Huh? Come on.
you know,
You start a whole new subject. You better,
yeah,
hey, go ahead now.
but that whole system is the manifestation of a capitalist
Yes. Yes.
competitive vibration.
Yes. Yes.
And we're living through it. I mean, you look at the prison system. I remember
Mhm.
when I started practicing law, I used to call them the Department of Correction. They don't
Mhm.
call it that many places anymore.
No.
Because
Yeah.
the goal is
That's
not to correct anybody. When you
no.
superimpose the capitalist paradigm, the
Right.
goal is to make money. So I don't
Right.
want you to get out.
Right.
I want
You
to
want
get as many of you in here as possible, because the
that's
more
right.
I can get in here and the longer I can keep you, each one of you represents about $45,000 a year in income.
Come on. You talk right.
So why should I let you out? Why should I encourage you? Let me violate. And when you have all the power,
Yes.
it's a trap. Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, brother. That's right. You're telling the truth.
Whew, okay, that's say you take me off on a whole nother trip. I'm
Yeah.
writing
Yeah.
about that now. That's a book in me,
Yes. That's powerful.
writing itself.
Mhm.
Dr. Harris,
Yes, Mary, go ahead.
you touched on a point a few minutes ago, and Jimmy touched on it, Sandra touched on it, and so did Tyrone. And when you started talking just now about stages and being stuck in those stages, um, it brought me back to what Jimmy and Sandra had said earlier. Jimmy realizing that he was part of the issue. And part of the issue, I think that when we get to that part of being part of the issue, is we're stuck in one of the stages of our life.
Mm.
We
Mm-hmm.
move forward and let go of that stage.
Let go.
Is self-talk and self-belief and changing our mindset. But again, it goes back to that old mindset coming back up and us having to constantly reprogram our brains,
Mm.
putting emotion behind that feeling.
Mm.
Am I on the right track when I'm saying that that's how we move from one stage to the other stage and finally let go totally of that stage?
Yes. Yes.
Let go.
Yes.
Mm.
And it's that programming. Think of it, you know, we have an intention and we have an attention, and the two work together. And the fact that we are seeking is an intention. The fact that we are seeking puts in the operation that spiritual principle that says, seek and you shall find. And the fact that we are seeking begins to create the vibration to help us bring about resolution to the challenge. So as long as we seek, as long as we keep trying to find the answer is coming to us.
Okay.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Woo, folks.
Before I let you guys go, I want to show you something. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Let me enlarge your screen a second. Yes, sir.
That is supposed to be a picture of me. Well, that is. That's a picture of me riding on a donkey.
Wow.
Now, what's interesting about that, Tyrone, is that is a representation that I heard 4 months ago, maybe 5, of, to your point, the animal me versus the real me.
Yes.
And every day I get to make a choice.
Yes.
Right.
So not every day, every moment I get to make a choice.
Right.
I'll admit, sometimes me and the donkey are very good friends.
I love it.
But it's true. But to your point, it's very true. I mean, you do have you have at a minimum 2 cells, right? You do.
Yes. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. And this is the interesting thing about collective thought when we come together. That it's almost like we had like one thought for every like one thought for everybody that that really it went through the whole group. Let me see, I'm trying to get the better screen here. Because when you were talking about, mastering the animal nature, and that is one of the symbolic meanings, because when Jesus came into, and just going, completely off course for a minute, the Jerusalem, metaphysically, it's Jerusalem, means city of peace. And so the gate and through which Christ is said to come, and Christ is the perfected master. We're talking kind of Sufi training. The perfected master, meaning the person who has all of the good qualities, all of the good qualities in us, the potential in us, and that to come into the city of peace, you have to come in having subdued the animal nature. And that was by the symbolism of riding on the donkey, symbolic of having subdued the animal nature, because you can't get into the city of peace if the animal is still ruling you.
Go ahead. That's real.
Yes,
That's
sir.
interesting.
So,
Real.
woo!
Beautiful. Yeah, that's powerful.
I think that's a good place to go have my breakfast. But y'all have taken this to a whole nother level. But isn't that interesting how one mind works together, how we all become smarter and more insightful as a communal mind?
That's right. No doubt.
All
Looking forward to
Yeah.
get ready. Yes.
So we'll close out in our, what I'd love to do, 2 things. I'd love for each person to give 1 word or 2 words that really captures what you felt today. And then we'll do the best is yet to come in closing. But I know for me, the word I felt was community, that we were all a part of a community. So any other just 1 word that sort of capsulizes what you felt today. Yes, Tyrone.
Transformation.
Transformation. Beautiful. Yes.
Simple clarity. I don't know. Clarity?
Clarity. Yes, clarity. Yes, that's good. Clarity. Thank you, Jimmy.
Insightfulness and blessing.
Blessing, insightfulness. Thank you, Mary. Sandra?
That you have to put in terms of the stages that you mentioned with the society today, you have to plant love and water it for growth.
Plant love, water it for
and
growth.
water it for growth.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. So let us say together our common close. The best
Best
is
is
yet
Yeah.
to come.
to come.
And so
Have
it
a
is.
great-
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. And share this message with somebody you feel would benefit from it and invite them to become a part of what we're doing.
Yes, sir.
Be blessed.
Be blessed.
God bless.
God bless. And happy Easter.
Happy
Uh,
Easter.
Happy Easter. Be blessed.